How you doing?
Joey Tribbiani isn't the smartest person in the room, yet somehow he's often the most comfortable, the most desired, and the most at ease. So what does Joey understand about confidence that others overthink into invisibility? Joey is the least analytical character in Friends. He doesn't overthink, he doesn't second guess, he doesn't spend hours wondering how people perceive him. And yet, he moves through the world with a kind of social ease that others struggle their entire lives to achieve. So what's the secret? Why does simplicity create charisma? This video will uncover the psychology behind Joey's effortless confidence. We'll explore something called self-concept clarity, the internal alignment that comes when your identity isn't fractured into competing versions of yourself. And we'll see how that clarity, not intelligence or status, is what makes people feel naturally confident. Because Joey doesn't try to be charismatic, he just is. And that might be the most important thing to understand about confidence. Joey's defining traits are deceptively simple: directness, emotional consistency, and almost no self-doubt. He says what he means. He feels what he feels. He doesn't apologize for wanting things or for being himself. Compare that to the other characters. Ross overthinks everything: his relationships, his career, how he's being perceived. Chandler uses humor as armor, constantly deflecting because he's terrified of vulnerability. Monica needs control to feel secure. Rachel spends years figuring out who she is. But Joey? Joey already knows. And that's the foundation of his confidence. It's not that he's loud or arrogant. It's that he has almost no inner conflict. He doesn't wage war with himself. He doesn't perform different versions of Joey depending on the situation. He's the same person with everyone in every context. Confidence isn't loud. Confidence is the absence of internal friction. When you watch Joey interact with people, you notice something. He doesn't hesitate. He doesn't calculate. He doesn't rehearse what he's about to say. He just moves. And that ease comes from knowing exactly who he is and not apologizing for it. Other people sense that. They feel his groundedness, and they relax around him because he isn't asking them to validate him. He's already validated himself. That's the setup. Joey knows who he is, and he doesn't waste energy pretending to be anything else. The psychological concept at the heart of Joey's confidence is called self-concept clarity. It's the degree to which your beliefs about yourself are clearly defined, internally consistent, and stable over time. People with high self-concept clarity know who they are. They don't shift their personality depending on who's in the room. They don't contradict themselves emotionally. Their identity isn't fragmented into competing selves. Joey has extremely high self-concept clarity. He likes food. He likes women. He likes acting. He values loyalty. He's protective of his friends. That's it. There's no hidden layer, no secret ambition to be someone else, no internal narrative telling him he's not good enough. And here's why that matters. Fewer internal contradictions reduce social anxiety. When your identity is complicated, when you're trying to be impressive, likable, smart, cool, and authentic all at once, you create internal conflict. Your brain is constantly monitoring. Am I being the right version of myself? Are they seeing me the way I want to be seen? Did I say the wrong thing? That monitoring drains energy. It creates hesitation. It makes you self-conscious. And people feel that self-consciousness. They sense the performance. Joey doesn't perform. He doesn't have multiple versions of himself competing for dominance. He just is. He doesn't monitor how he's perceived because he's not trying to control it. He reacts honestly instead of strategically. If he's confused, he says so. If he's attracted to someone, he says so. If he's hurt, he says so. There's no filter calculating what the right response should be. That's the mechanism. Mental simplicity frees emotional energy, which others experience as confidence. When you're not spending energy managing your identity, that energy becomes presence. It becomes ease. It becomes the kind of magnetism that people can't quite explain, but definitely feel. Joey's internal world is quiet, not because he's dumb, but because he's not at war with himself. And that quiet confidence is louder than any performance could ever be. Joey's ease has real consequences. It affects his social success, his romantic life, and the way people respond to him. Look at his dating life. Joey dates constantly, not because he's traditionally handsome or wealthy or intellectually impressive. He dates because women feel comfortable around him. He's direct without being aggressive. He's playful without being manipulative. He's present without being needy. Contrast that with Ross, who spirals into jealousy and insecurity, or Chandler, who uses jokes to avoid emotional honesty. Both of them overthink their way into sabotaging relationships. Joey just shows up as himself, and that's enough. There's a scene where Joey gets rejected, and he just shrugs and moves on. No spiral, no existential crisis, no questioning his worth. Rejection doesn't collapse his identity because his identity isn't dependent on external validation. That's the paradox. Joey's lack of ambition for approval makes him more attractive. People feel safe around him. He's not performing. He's not manipulating. He's not secretly resenting you while pretending to be fine. He's just Joey. Honest, straightforward, emotionally consistent Joey. And that groundedness is rare. Most people are performing some version of themselves, managing how they're perceived, hiding parts they think are unacceptable. Joey doesn't do that, and people sense the difference. His presence feels non-threatening. He's not trying to win. He's not trying to dominate. He's not trying to impress. He's just there, fully there. No agenda, no hidden motive, just presence. The emotional consequence is that people relax around him. They don't feel judged. They don't feel like they're being evaluated. They feel like they can be themselves because Joey is so clearly himself. And that's magnetic. It's not about being the funniest or the smartest or the most accomplished. It's about being internally consistent, about not asking people to validate you, about showing up as the same person every time. Joey wins people over not by trying harder, but by trying less, by being simpler, by reducing the distance between who he is and who he presents. So what can we learn from Joey? How do we apply this to real life? First, confidence grows when identity becomes less complicated. Most people carry around multiple versions of themselves. The version they show at work, the version they show their family, the version they perform on dates, the version they present online. And all of those versions require maintenance. They require energy. They create internal friction. Joey doesn't do that. He's the same person everywhere, and that consistency frees him. Second, overthinking creates internal friction that leaks socially. When you're constantly monitoring yourself, wondering if you said the right thing, if you're being perceived correctly, if people like you, that anxiety is visible. People feel it. It makes them uncomfortable because it signals that you're not at ease with yourself. Joey doesn't monitor. He just responds. And that ease is contagious. Here's how to apply it. Stop rehearsing personality. Stop planning what you're going to say before you say it. Stop calculating how to come across. Just be present. Respond honestly. Let yourself be seen without the filter. Reduce the number of selves you try to maintain. Pick one version, the real one, the one that doesn't shift depending on who's watching, and commit to that. Let it be simple. Let it be consistent. Allow yourself to be internally consistent, not impressive. You don't have to be clever. You don't have to be fascinating. You just have to be honest. And that honesty, that simplicity is far more magnetic than any performance. The core takeaway? Clarity is more magnetic than cleverness. Joey isn't trying to be impressive. He's trying to be himself. And himself is enough. That's the secret. That's the lesson. When you stop fracturing your identity into what you think people want, you become whole, and wholeness is what people feel as confidence. Joey doesn't win people over by trying. He wins because he's already at peace with who he is. And maybe the secret to confidence isn't becoming more, but becoming simpler. Stop performing. Stop calculating. Stop managing the versions. Just show up. Be consistent. Be honest. Be whole. Because the people who seem most confident aren't the ones trying hardest. They're the ones who've stopped trying to be anything other than themselves.